going to put a front wheel bearing on my 2003 Trailblazer. Now, I understand that there already are a couple of these videos for front wheel bearing replacement on the Trailblazer, and the request I get is to show it without air tools. Now, this truck is going to go up on the lift, but you have my personal guarantee that you can do it the same way, working out on the ground, on a jack stand. The reason for doing this on the lift is really for better camera angles. So I'm just going to pop the center cap off. It looks like my axle nut socket here is 36. Some people have reported that theirs were 35 millimeter. Let's see if I can get this fucker off by hand. Yep. Nothing to it. Now, if for some reason you can't get this thing to budge, best thing to do is just take it up to a shop, have one of the dudes loosen it with the impact, and just spin it on with a wrench. Before I lift this thing up, just going to do it just as if it was on a, on a jack stand. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the lugs up. $19 mil. So to get to this wheel bearing, the caliper bracket, and the rotor have to come off. Now I'm going to tell you straight up, for some reason, whether it's I'm just retarded or whatever, I can't take the caliper bracket off and get it back on with the caliper and all the shit still attached. That's just me, I can't do it that way. So I'm just going to go ahead and take these caliper mounting bolts off of the bracket and then hang the caliper up out of the way. A lot of people have given me shit for that over the years, but you know what? I'm doing the job, not you, so go fuck yourself. So, two 17 millimeter bolts. That little fuck stick right there starts spinning. You can just take an open end wrench and kind of hold him. It looks like I got an 18 on the back of this and then a 17 for the bolt. Now I'm sure if you were using air tools, that thing would have zipped right out of there. Actually, I saw it zip out of there this morning. All I'm doing is securing the caliper so it's not hanging by the hose or, more importantly, in the way of what I'm doing. Now, just in case you can't see what I'm doing, all I'm doing is taking these two bolts out. This guy here and this guy here. So I got an 18 millimeter on my big half-inch ratchet. So I can just take this whole assembly out of the way. Pretty cool. Well, I got lucky here. The rotor just kind of popped off. Yikes. Say we're about due for some rotors too. This wheel bearing that I got, it comes with a sensor for the ABS brakes. Before I unbolt the old wheel bearing, I'm just going to go ahead and pop all the sensor stuff off too. So all I'm going to do is just follow what came with the new one and pop everything out accordingly. Alright, you asshole connector. You be giving me trouble on coils and stuff. So I pushed the middle in and I just kind of pulled the side down. I don't even know if that's the right way to do it. God damn, I hate these fucking clips. God damn. What is that? How'd that get in there? So really all I'm going to do is just kind of follow how this Original sensor was mounted. For fuck's sake, man. Oh, looks like that one just fell out of there. Now something else I've gotten in the habit of doing, whenever I take one of these stupid dust shields off, I just draw a little mark so I know which way it goes back together. I know it sounds totally retarded, but there have been times where they look almost identical on each half of the shield and it only goes on one way. So maybe it is kind of obvious on this Trailblazer how this thing would go back together, but old habits are hard to break, I guess. So we've got the caliper off, the caliper bracket off, the rotor off, the ABS sensor's disconnected. So we can go ahead and take our 36 millimeter again. And, uh-oh, what do we do now? Just got a pry bar wedged in between a couple lugs. I'll keep it from turning. I'm sure if you were using an impact, this thing would have just whizzed off. So I'm going to back this off just till this almost clears this shaft. I still got a little bit of the shaft sticking out, but I'm going to tap that motherfucker a couple times. She's a little stubborn. PB blaster all day. I'm also going to spray all this shit off. Let that motherfucker soak in for a couple minutes. Now, as you can tell from looking at this new wheel bearing, there's pretty much just 3 bolts hold this thing in. Now, I don't know how good I'm going to be able to show them, but you can't miss them. Trust me. If you got this shit apart that way, if you can't find them 3 bolts back here, well, you got bigger problems than a wheel bearing. You know what I'm saying? There's no way I'm getting a camera back there, but I did get the bolt out. So what I have here is I have a Shorty 18 on top of a little extension, and it was just a titty smaller than this deep well 18, which did not fit. Yeah, and the whole shaft just flopped with it, so I'm gonna have to keep smacking this motherfucker right here just to loosen up that shaft. Come on, you fucking hussy. See, that's how you gotta talk to him. She's caked on there pretty good. And we'll just fish this out of there. See if we can hear anything in this old bearing. Hope you guys can see this okay. Man, this thing had a lot of just shit on it. Dusty, crusty, rusty, whatever. So I'm probably just going to take a wire brush, nothing super fancy, just something like this. Just clean off the splines here. And I'm also going to take some sandpaper and just kind of get all this gunk out of here. So this is just like some 60 grit, and I'm probably just gonna go all the way around here. Before I put this bearing on, I'm just going to take a little bit of silver stuff, and I'm going to just put a little coating in here. So I'm also going to put a little bit of silver stuff on this shaft too. Before you guys send me the hate mail, I don't care if it's not the way you would do it. I'm not telling anyone that's the way that they should do it. I'm just saying that's how I just did it on mine, and just leave it at that. Gonna take one of the hub bolts. So I put the first hub bolt in just to kind of get the everything kind of lined up. I guess before I tighten those two up all the way, I really should get the last one started. Now we've got a couple choices that we can do here. The torque spec on these 3 bolts is 77 foot-pounds per GM service information. So we can try to torque it maybe, I don't really know. Where we've got like a limited working area in here. So we'll try to get it with the torque wrench. I don't even know it's going to work. Do you want to know why I don't know if it's going to work? Because usually I don't even torque these motherfuckers. Usually on stuff like this where torquing it's more of a pain in the ass than what it's worth, I just let it ride. I figure if I can get it loose enough by hand, then I can get it tight enough. I'm going to try to get this torque wrench in here. So for that center bolt up top, torque wrench head, 1/2 inch to a 3/8 reducer, about a 3-inch 3/8 extension, and then a shorty 18 mil. For this last one, dude, I don't even think you're going to be able to do this on the ground. I'm sorry for this crude lighting and crude angle, but it looks like if you go in between the tie rod end and the axle shaft, you might have just enough room up in this wheel well to get your 77 foot-pounds. I don't know, I'm gonna see if I can make it click. Nah, I can't. Now I want to take this speed sensor and just kind of route it how it was. And breaking news, I forget how it was routed. So I'm just going to cheat and use the other side as a reference. This is that dick from last time. He's back in there. There's an upside down one up on the upper control arm. You can't miss it, trust me. Then there was that ditty titty back here. Now in cases like this where the clip is in good shape, I'll just take the clip off the new one. Because we left this clip up in here. You see this little thingy right here? This thing's an asshole. I don't know why he always be giving me shit, yo. So, I don't know if you saw that, but there's a groove in the back of this connector. And I just pushed that thing up in that groove. She ain't going nowhere now. I'll just plug this ABS connector in and then pop this motherfucker up in there too. Man, look at this rotor. I just got done telling, I think, Mounts on the forum that, oh, I had my rotors cut and they lasted another 80,000. So I just put like a wheel nut on here to keep the rotor from fucking flopping around. Now, normally I would go through the whole shebang of taking the pads out, cleaning the slides, putting new grease on here and all that. But because these rotors are so screwed and I've already got pads for it, I'm not going to do anything but put it back together for now. Since I know it's getting brakes anyway, there ain't no point in doing anything else. Now, if it was if I took this rotor off and nothing was wrong with it, well, we'd be doing a lot more stuff putting this back together. But there ain't no point in taking all this shit apart and greasing it when I know I'm going to be coming back and doing it anyway. Caliper bracket to knuckle. Yeah, they call for 133 foot-pounds. Seems like a lot. How did somebody come up with that? Why is it 133? Why can't it be like you know, like a nice round number, like 125 or something? I don't get that either. What's up with that? What's up with me not being able to read this freaking wrench? I guess the big question here is, can these things be torqued to 133 foot-pounds on the ground? I guess it could be done. Whoa, did you see that? Whoa, that was just like the Matrix. That was like when they pulled Morpheus out of that building. Well, maybe there wasn't a helicopter or any special effects or Morpheus. But man, that was pretty cool. I've got clearance between my torque wrench handle and the front bumper. So if this thing was on a jack stand, I think there's enough travel here in this torque wrench that it can be done. It can be done on the ground, on the jack stand. So I'm just going to unhook the caliper. I was using my fancy holder thingy on it. And again, this shit's all coming apart real soon anyway, so I'm not touching it. You'll see all that shit when I do front brakes on this thing. According to GM, these little Dinkster bolts are torqued to 31 foot-pounds. And I'm not torquing them at all. Fuck them. I mean, yeah, technically I could torque them down, but dude, there's not much to 31 foot-pounds. I mean, it's just, there's your 31 foot-pounds. You know what I'm saying? There ain't much to it. I don't know if I said this, so I'm just going to say it now. The reason that I kept the nut on here when I was hammering on this shaft is so that I didn't mess these threads up. Trust me when I say that when it comes to swinging a hammer, I don't have the best accuracy. I just snug these up just to get it on the ground, and then we'll torque them down. So I think if I remember correctly, the wheel nuts were 103 foot-pounds. So I'm just going to go 103 on those. Well, apparently our axle nut's also 103 foot-pounds. I might have to double check that. whenever I put a bearing on, you know, that has the studs pressed in like this does, I take it for a ride and I come back and I just double check the torque on the lug nuts. Well, since we had the caliper and shit off, I'm going to pump the brakes a couple times. Just make sure she's cool. Like I said, I'm not going for a road test right now. The only thing I do want to do is start this thing up and make sure that that ABS light ain't on. So, that's cool. What's up? So I was editing the video for the Trailblazer wheel bearing today, and there was a couple things I left out, so I'm just going to go ahead and spit them out right here. I'm sure people are going to want to know, how did I determine which wheel bearing was bad? Well, what was going on with my truck was a little bit different. I've got a ton of tire noise, and to be honest, I didn't even think I had a bearing problem. I have a clunk over bumps in the front and in the rear, and what I noticed was that the clunk in the front sounded a lot different and a lot worse. So I brought it into the shop. I was convinced it was a ball joint problem, so I did a little test on the ball joints, and it actually had play in the bearing. Like I said, with so much tire noise going on in that thing, I couldn't even really hear anything. If I was going to troubleshoot a wheel bearing noise, I do it a little bit differently than probably everybody else. The spring test method, where you hold one of the springs and then you spin the wheel, I mean, that for the most part works, but I've been burned by that before. Just like I've been burned by, you know, well, it sounds like it's coming from the right front. I mean, I've been burned by that so many times, it's not even funny. Really what I do is just drive the truck around, take some hard turns, couple figure eights, and then I hop out and I take the temperature of both wheel bearings, and whichever one's hotter is what I'm going to take apart. And so far I have not had one that it was the colder side. It's always been the hotter side. I hope this doesn't pop up in a search for Trailblazer bearing noise, because it's really just for the bearing replacement. If I get one that has a legit noise and no other noises or whatever, we'll probably do it a little bit more just on the diagnostic side, but as for now, it's just a bearing replacement video without air tools. One thing that I knew that I said but I could not find in the footage that I took was, I didn't do this video as a way to say, you know, the other two videos were bad. They were actually pretty good. If it wasn't for, I mean, even people that I knew in real life saying, hey, I watched this video, can you do this without, you know, air tools? And I said, yeah, I've done them in the driveway before, no big deal. After so many requests, it's like, I just got to do a video on it, because it's going to save me a lot of time typing or texting somebody, you know what I'm saying? But again, I don't want to take away anything from the 1A Auto video or the other dude that did it. You know, that's cool, and it shows how to do it, you know. I don't have anything bad to say about those guys. I was a little bit disappointed with a couple things with the camera. Getting over my shoulder when I was trying to get some of those speed sensor harness clips out. There's just nothing I can do. In fact, I don't know any way to do it where, you know, you can actually show a hand hold you know, I don't know any way to do it where you can have your hand holding a clip and then another hand holding the pick, and you've got the camera just right looking from my point of view, unless I get a freaking helmet cam or something, but that's not going to happen. Anyway, moving on, I'm still cracking at this thing. I brought my Trailblazer to the shop, and I've had to move it out a couple times, but it's just been camping out here. It's been getting a lot of modifications done. I went through an experience trying to make my headlights look cooler, and I think I'm going to share that with you. It's not really going to be a fixed video, but just another Trailblazer modification. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. Like what you see, subscribe to my shit.